So how are things in New Zealand then? Because like I didn't know you basically done the bunk. So I'm really interested in like how all that came about because I basically hadn't heard from you for ages and then just saw you on Instagram absolutely blowing the back doors off a club somewhere in New Zealand and I was like, I've got to talk to him about this. This is too good to be true.
Yeah,
This like
well, it's a weird coincidence really because I went to school over here. My family decided to move here when I was a kid, basically. So I went to school in a very small town called Kerry in the North Island, top of the North Island, and then been lucky enough to come back here touring over the years. My dad still lives here. Dad's been here for 15 years, maybe a bit more now. And obviously, when the COVID thing happened, like I probably did about eight months or something at home in Warrington, and then New Zealand was the first place to recover, coincidentally. So I was like, God, I've got the passport sat there. I'm gonna go. Booked a one-way flight and arrived here on the 3rd of December.
amazing, amazing. And you know what? Anyone in your position would do the exact same thing, you know, especially given the situation in the UK. You could kindly call it a bit of a shit show, do you know what I mean? So I imagine New Zealand is just a complete total opposite of what you've experienced back in the UK.
Yeah, and I was living alone in the UK as well. So like the first 3 or 4 months when it was strict lockdown, it was pretty tough. You know, the only people I would see was the people at the checkout in the supermarket. Started to feel a little bit loopy. So yeah, it was a good move for sure. And it's been a bit unpredictable over here. I mean, it's not perfect because we still do go back into lockdowns. Even if there's one case in the country, we'll go back into a lockdown. So it can be a little bit unpredictable at times, but generally it's a lot better. You know, we have windows of freedom.
Mm, mm. I imagine I said it as soon as I saw that video. I was saying it to a load of my friends. Like New Zealand is now basically the rave capital of the world. Like it's insane. Like I was just that video on Instagram. I was like, oh, I remember those days. And then it was like, is he posting this from like 6 months ago or something, or like over a year ago or something? And it was like, no, it was like the night before.
Playing that first gig back was the weirdest feeling. I mean, just going into it and being in a room full of people was intense enough in itself, but the energy of the people, because you know, obviously there was a lockdown here as well. So this was one of the first big events back that they'd had. They'd done a few smaller ones, but this was a fucking good one. It's called Electric Rush in Queenstown. It's my first gig back, and it was wild, mate. It was. I had a lot of emotions going on. I was obviously very excited to be back. I was a bit anxious about being around so many people. And it did take a bit of getting used to.
No, I can imagine.
It's not a night I'm going to forget in a long time.
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously because we're on the supposed sort of build up here to that moment happening in June. So there's a lot of excitement and there's been a lot of events booked here. But, you know, it's interesting you say that, you know, there's a real mix of emotions because, you know, I think at the moment everybody's anticipating it here and it's like, you know, get me in the club and I can't wait and stuff like that. And it's interesting you bring up that kind of like anxiety of it as well because that's something I've definitely felt of like, I'm not sure like how I'm going to dip my toe back into it because I've just become so like, being in isolation has just become so normalized to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. It's a weird one, isn't it? I mean, it's obviously not natural for humans to be cooped up like that. But I don't think it's going to take long for people to adjust back into it. It probably will be very, very weird going, you know, the first few raves. But yeah, it's easy to get back into it, and this sounds so bad in a way, but it feels very normal over here at the moment. You know, when things are going, you kind of forget what's going on. till you watch the news and it's like, oh shit, we're so lucky over here.